Hey guys, Conrad here. Just wanted to give you a bit of a recap on how the winter went. I spent the winter in this thing in Eastern Canada, so it's definitely interesting. One of the big things for RV living in the winter in cold climates is the skirt. The bottom there, all the way around. You absolutely need a skirt. Mine was tested out at first. I was good to about -10 Celsius, and then after that the pipes would freeze without the skirt. And this RV has heated underbelly, so basically between the floor and the ground, the actual belly pan of the camper, that's where all the plumbing and the tanks are, and the furnace, the propane furnace, heats up in that area. So, but even with that, there's some insulation, and it is a 4-season, but even with 4-season, it's not really meant for winters. So with the skirts, it helped. I got down last winter, I'd be able to do about -25 before anything froze. And one of the big downside is propane use was insane last winter. It was about $600 a month in propane. This winter that just ended, I got it down to about $400 a month, so a lot better. So I would do about a 100-pound tank of propane in a week. And I'm going to show you, or try to explain a little bit of what I did, and maybe you can help some of you down in the future. So the way the camper is set up, the storage is right there, and the furnace is in the storage. Right above the storage is the bathroom, and then the bedroom. And then right next to that is the office, and then you got the kitchen and the living room. So what's happening is, since the furnace is really close to the office gets nice and warm, and that's where the thermostat is. So it'll turn off, but by the time the heat gets all the way to the living room and the kitchen, there's not all that much left. And then the living room and the kitchen are double slides, so there's a slide on this side and there's a slide on the other side. So the slides are not sealed, it's not airtight by any means. There's just a lot of surface, and there's a lot of heat loss. So in order to keep the living room and the kitchen at a proper temperature, the office, which is where I spent most of the time because I'm working from home, would be way too warm, and it would also just eat propane like crazy. So what I wanted to do this year was try to seal the skirt a little bit better, and I wanted to try to keep the floor warmer, and I'll show you what I did. So walking towards the skirt, I got a door here, opens up. Last year, for those that remember, this door got ripped out from the wind. At the end of the season, usually the skirt's taking a beating. This year, actually, I'll leave this open so you can see. Just jam a propane tank behind it so it doesn't take off in the wind. One thing I did add to this door is a little flap on the inside. So if for whatever reason I'm working on the inside here in the winter, I can keep the door closed if I have to do any fixing. So one thing I did, so the skirt itself is just lumber, and then there's some foam. Like I said, it's taking a beating at the end of the winter, but so to seal the top, I had sill gasket, which is basically this foam here. It's the foam that you would put when you're building a house between the concrete and the base of the wall. I wanted something that was nice and flexible, try to seal, and it does okay, but it's almost too soft, so the wind would just get through. So last winter I wanted to try to get something a little better seal, so I ended up buying some of this pink stuff, which is attic vent that you would put on the end of your attic. Just nailed it there. So the advantage with this, I mean, it's still not a perfect seal, but it's a fairly tight seal and it's flexible. One thing I did not expect the first winters, and the reason that there's a gap that needs to be sealed, is you can't get the skirt tight to the bottom of the camper, because when the ground freezes, or if you get a really wet winter, the ground moves quite a bit. This winter was not so bad, but it does get, it's even with the gaps, I'll leave a gap all the way around, try to seal with that, and it still gets to the point that the skirt will lift and it's pushing to at the bottom of the camper, that I actually have to lift the camper up. So mine is all hydraulic, so it's no big deal. Just push of a button, lift the camper by an inch or half an inch, just to try to, you know, not cause any damage. But I see some people online, they'll get the skirts tight to the bottom, which if you're in a really, really dry climate would be okay, but here it just doesn't work. So, and so in order to, so this helped. And then, but the big thing I wanted to do, like I mentioned, was try to seal, to get the floor warmer. So I gotta crawl in there and I'll show you what I did. When the skirt was first installed, designed and built, there's no plan to ever get back here. So there's no door. I got the main door that I came in, and there's a door where I dump the black tanks, but no way to get back here. So it's a crawl, but it works. As you can see, there's some gaps. That was all tight, and then just from the winter, the winds, it's taking a beating. Some parts blew off with the wind. But so the big thing was, like I mentioned, trying to keep the floor a little bit warmer for first comfort, and then just less propane use with the furnace. So the idea was, I put this foam board, which is just this stuff here, 1 inch foam board. I put some on the underbelly. Now it's not perfect, far from it. The issue I came up with that I wasn't really expecting, there's no real way to attach it. So again, this was better, and it was all attached up there. Obviously came loose with the wind, but there's nothing to really attach to, because the frame, I mean, you'll never get that clean enough to actually really get tape to stick to it. So that's why I added these parts here on the inside of the frame to give me something to tape to attach it. The ideal setup really would be to have a full wood frame underneath that's insulated, but it's just not worth the effort. So I had foam running all the way down, and then these here around the suspension. The center was sagging because there's no way to support the center, so I just got these blocks on top of the axles to try to support the centers, and I got it all the way to the where the furnace is. If you give me a sec, I'll just crawl up. So same thing here. Paneling underneath. And then this here is the drop frame. So the frame on the camper goes from this height and then it drops down like 10 inches, maybe a foot, where the storage compartment is, just to give more room for the storage. A lot of the high-end campers, that's how they're done. The frame is a little bit more expensive, but it gives just better storage, better everything. And the plan, as you can see, I got some more sheets. The plan was to do it all the way down, but I got to this point and it was cold and I said that's probably good enough for now, and I never ended up finishing it. But at least I got to this point. So the furnace is right on the other side where the drop frame is. But it ended up going from $600 a month. So but last winter I did about 6 tanks a month, and this winter I was able to do just 4. So it was a good improvement. It was still cold inside. The floor didn't really feel all that much warmer, and this winter was just as cold as last one, if not worse. And with this insulation I was able to get at minus 25. It didn't freeze. The only time the water froze, it was minus 32 or something for a couple days, and it ended up freezing. But as soon as it got a little warmer, back to like minus 25, it thawed out again, which last winter it would not have. So last winter when it froze at minus 25, I'd have to get to almost 0 degrees outside for it to actually melt the pipes again. So the heat just couldn't keep up. So this insulation did work, paid for itself. Definitely recommended. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to put up, but it works. If somebody was doing a more permanent solution, just framing the whole thing properly would definitely be even better. But hey, it works. Now the summer's here, so, well, spring. Heat will be coming around, so at some point this whole thing will have to be taken apart, but not right away. Still more projects to do, and yeah, let me just crawl out of here and I'll get to those. So the other projects I got to do that I wanted to do before the winter but didn't get to it, it's more solar panels. So right now I got those 12 solar panels, and as you can see, so that's all I had the past winter, and then the plan for this winter was to add more. I got the solar panels here, just got to put them up. I built 2 more frames up there, so 4 more are going up there, and then the rest of them are just going to be on this bottom frame here. I just got to get to it. It would have been nice. It would have been nice to have them all winter to help with some of the heat, the electric. So far, what I was doing, so with because I'm fully solar, fully off grid for now. I do have a generator that I was using. If the big electric requirement for the camper is, surprisingly, the propane furnace takes quite a bit of power to run the fan. So even though I'm not heating with electric, it's fully propane, just turning the fan takes quite a bit of electricity. And because it's not super well insulated, on the cold days that propane furnace is running a lot. Like, you can run, you know, maybe 16 or 18 hours out of a day. So the fan is constantly working. The other big electric draw is the tanks, so they don't, the water tanks, so they don't freeze. There's a electric heat pad that's built in, so I got some switches on the inside, so that's on all winter. just to try to assist to not get the tanks to freeze. But that too it's a heating element, so it takes quite a bit of electricity. So with the current battery and solar setup, usually I was good for, like, if the batteries were decently charged, I was good for 1 full day of clouds with no sun. Any more than that, I'd have to run the generator. But it's different than running the generator in a house. Generator in a house, if the power goes out, you're running the generator until the power comes back. This here, the generator is not giving me power to use. The generator charges the batteries. So I can run the generator for an hour, charge up the batteries, and then I'm good for a day, right? So it's a different setup than a house. It's still a pain to have to use the generator, but so ideally, and to finish off spring, because it's still only like 4 degrees. So the plan is to add some more solar panels, which I have, and I bought another set of batteries. If you guys want more explainer on how the solar system works and the batteries, I can certainly do that. Let me know in the comments. Once that's all set up, then I can, at least for the spring, use a bit more electricity for heating, because there's a electric fireplace and the electric furnace that I can use, and that would definitely offset some of the cost of the propane. Ideally, that would have all been done in October of last year, but life happens and I didn't get to it. So it'll be done for now, and we'll have more than enough power all summer. So that's the next project. Just adding those solar panels and connecting the whole thing, getting the batteries connected, the extra batteries. So thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.